Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello again, my friends, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. It's Lynda. Today, we are going to delve into the order of Pilates. Many people don't know that the Pilates exercises actually have an order. And this includes many teachers because some instructor trainings actually do not follow any order or give any order to the Pilates exercises. But we know historically that if you look at Joseph Pilates' lists of exercises, like in his book, Return to Life, where he, lists and describes the entire mat, and other people's notes on the order of the exercises, as well as the video footage and photos that we have of him teaching people in his studio, we know that Joseph Pilates taught the exercises in a very specific order. And while you, as a teacher or a student, may just want to be a rebel and not follow the order at all, it's kind of important that you do. And today I'm going to explain to you, number one, kind of what the order is, what the order means, why the order might exist, at least in my view, and then why it's important as both a practitioner of Pilates as well as a teacher of Pilates to kind of know the order and to always have it in the back of your mind. It will make it easier for you to put a workout together for yourself, and it will make it easier for you to teach clients in the studio. So I'm going to back up for a second because I want to talk a little bit about where this episode comes from. Because as you know, there's usually for me some kind of story about something I read or heard or saw, and then I riff off of it in a podcast episode, as well as in, my social media posting and in my free Facebook groups. I recently have noticed that there are a lot of Pilates teachers who are confused about how to teach a class, especially teaching a group class, and especially if there are people with injuries or issues or chronic pain situations in the class, what we would call a special population client. Sometimes people just don't know where to start. I also see a lot of questions surrounding doing first session or beginning of session movement screenings. How do we decide what clients might be ready to do? And all of these questions are a bit more easily answered if you understand that Pilates is not just a set of exercises, but they are a set of exercises done in a specific order. And even though some of us may change the variations or modifications of the exercises that we're doing, we still kind of work within the order and within the framework. And when you know the order of the exercises, it will make doing and teaching a whole lot easier. Seriously, a whole lot easier. Because once you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is what comes next in the series, then you can say to yourself, well, can the client actually do that exercise? No. Then maybe we'll skip it and go to the next one. Or maybe if I modify it a little bit, and then you'll modify it. Same thing for your own body. You'll be doing your workout. You'll get to a certain exercise and you'll be like, does my body want to do that? And as an example, I'll give you, things that say I don't do. I have a pretty big, if you've been listening to the podcast or following me online for a while, you probably know this, but I'll repeat it for people who don't. I have a very large vertebral deterioration in my neck, and it's specifically on the right side of my cervical spine. And due to that deterioration, I sometimes get neurological symptoms into my right hand. Like, for example, if I open my right arm kind of out to the side, if I'm up on a roller or on a small barrel, and I'm doing some stretching with my arms in like a T position, I will sometimes feel electrical shocks going into my thumb and my index finger. It doesn't happen all the time. It kind of depends on how busy I am and how tight I am and how stressed I am. But it happens. In general, I am able to keep myself out of neck and shoulder pain. So I don't always, notice and I'm not always affected by this pretty dramatic deterioration in my neck. I mean, it kind of goes in, it looks like a little triangular wedge out of the vertebrae. Now, I don't do certain exercises because it aggravates my neck. And those exercises are typically ones that involve inversions. So if I'm doing mat, I'm not doing rollover. I'm not doing jackknife. And frankly, I do very small range of motion rolling. Like I don't even go to my shoulder blades. And I avoid most of the rolling and the open leg rocking and the seal and, anything that has me up in a shoulder stand. And frankly, since I've been doing that, I'm feeling so much better. If I was still working in the studio, I would cut out, short spine, which I already had because I have a sacroiliac instability. And that causes me a lot of pain from overstretching, not while I'm doing short spine, but a day or two after. So maybe I'm not doing short spine. Maybe I'm not doing overhead. Maybe I'm not doing long spine. Maybe I'm not doing those exercises, which really do put my body weight onto my shoulder girdle. And that makes it very easy for me to modify my workout to work around my neck and my shoulder. Partly because I know the order of the exercises. So I know that, for example, if I'm doing my mat work and I say I do my standing footwork, which I always love to do, standing footwork is good for everybody. And then I come down and I do my 100 and I'm feeling okay. And I do my roll up, which is fine, and I'm feeling okay. And then it comes time to do rollover. And I think, I'm not doing rollover. So maybe I might do a bridge instead because I'm okay coming up to my shoulders as long as I still have weight on my feet, right? As long as the weight is distributed and is not all on the shoulders. So then maybe I bridge or I do something else instead during that exercise. The same thing when I get to rolling. Maybe I might do a half roll back with my knees bent. Maybe I might do a very small modified range of motion, rolling like a ball. And again, it's not because I can't do the exercise, because I can, but it's because if I roll consistently into my shoulder blades and that kind of junction of the cervical and thoracic spine, it aggravates my neck. And I don't need to do things that aggravate my neck. So I'm hoping that you're already seeing how, just by kind of knowing the order of the exercises, I'm easily able to modify the ones that I'm not doing or just skip over them and move to the next thing. It makes it so much easier. Okay, so much. And there is an order to the exercises on the mat and on the reformer, and a little bit on the chairs. But Joe really focused on the order of the exercises with mat and reformer. Another reason why it's kind of nice to follow the order of the exercises is that even if you're skipping some or modifying others, you can still have a little more flow in your workout. So I also see a lot of questions about class flow in Pilates teacher groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. And these are really valid questions, which is, I don't want to make the class seem choppy. Not everybody can do all of the exercises. How can I teach all of this with the special population people and whatever else in a way that the class still flows? And I promise you that once you teach a little bit more to the order of the exercises, you will automatically find a little more flow in what you're teaching and what you're doing. Okay, whether you're practicing Pilates or you're teaching Pilates, this will work for you. It will also keep you as a teacher one step ahead of your client, because you will have in your head what comes next. However, it will also ultimately mean that as you're teaching your clients, they will know what comes next. And that actually deepens the relationship and makes the teaching a lot easier, because instead of having to re-explain the wheel, well, now we're doing this and we're going to do it in this way, you can simply say the name of the exercise, or say, oh, we're going to skip that today and go to the next one, which is whatever. And your client's going to know what that is and know what that means and know what they're doing. You might also have heard about the quote unquote classical transitions. Now, I'm starting to use the terminology of classical and contemporary a little bit less. Number one, I find it divisive in a way that's unnecessary. Prior to the Pilates trademark lawsuit, which, ultimately the trademark was lost and Pilates did become a generic term. But prior to that, there was no classical and contemporary. People just taught Pilates, and they taught it in slightly different styles with slightly different choreography. But pretty much everybody taught a similar order to the exercises. So when I see, say, Pilates teachers or Pilates clients saying to me, well, what exercise should we be doing first on the reformer? And I'm thinking to myself, well, footwork. And then I realize that not everybody is being taught that the reformer always starts with footwork. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's boring. Well, not really, because you can focus on different things in footwork. Number one, if your client is just walking in off the street, footwork on the reformer is going to get your client kind of settled in to the Pilates thing, settled in to the studio, focused a little more on their body. And as a teacher, you're going to see everything you need to see in that client's body as they're doing footwork. You're going to see if they're trying to tuck their pelvis all the time. And if you're a client, you can think about this too. If you're doing footwork on the reformer, are you able to keep your collarbones open and wide so you can still breathe deeply? Are you able to keep your sacrum heavy on the mat so that your hip bones are wide and even? Are you able to push the carriage out without tucking your pelvis back and shoving your lower back into the mat? Conversely, are you able to push the carriage out without shifting your hip bones all the way forward and putting all the pressure into your tailbone? When you have the carriage all the way out, are you able to lengthen between your hip bones and your thigh bones? Are you able to get your knees completely straight? Are you able to still keep the lift of your breastbone and keep your breath going and keep your spine in a nice settled position where it's not doing a lot of moving other than with your breathing? And then you're going to continue doing that through all of the positions of the footwork. By the end of that, you are breathing a lot, right? You have moved your ribs a lot. You sort of feel where you are on the reformer. You feel how you're working against the springs. You can kind of feel where you might be tighter or looser in your legs and your hips. And then once you've kind of opened up the body a little bit in this kind of flat spine, and I don't mean flat as compressed to the mat. I just mean not rounded forward and not hyperextended backward. Okay. That you're in this middle position, and then you are warm enough to get the upper body involved and start your hundreds and start your breathing. And that's when you're going to get a chance to see, hey, can I or my client keep my collarbones open and my shoulders wide and the ability to breathe as I curl up my head and my shoulders? If you're keeping the head and shoulders down, you're still thinking about the same thing. Can I push into these springs? Can I push into these straps or these handles and keep my arms straight and keep my shoulders and collarbones open and still breathe? Can I hold my legs up in the air without my lower back pulling forward and coming up off the mat? There's all of these things that, again, are built into the order of the work. So if you're looking at, a beginning to intermediate workout and you're thinking in your head, starting with footwork, then I'm doing the 100, then I'm doing short spine, or I'm doing frogs and leg circles, then I'm doing coordination. Okay. You see where I'm going with this. Then I'm coming off. Maybe I'm getting a little extension. I'm doing a little swan. Then I'm getting a little more extension with my pull straps and my T, and we move through. So if you really look at the order in which, or as close to the order in which Joseph Pilates taught his exercises, you're going to see where he starts warming up the body, starts warming up the spine, starts warming up the shoulder joints, starts warming up the hip joints and the knee joints and the ankle joints. And then by the end of the mat, we're doing push-ups and all kinds of things. By the end of the reformer, we're doing, bridging and pushing. We're doing standing splits. We're having fun. The order of the exercises is also important as a teaching tool and a learning tool. Say you learn the beginner series on the mat on the reformer. Then you're able to weave in intermediate exercises as your client or you can tolerate them, and then start to weave in higher advanced or, higher intermediate or advanced exercises also into that workout as you build strength. So I recommend that if you are either doing Pilates or teaching Pilates or some combination of both, and you don't know the order of the exercises, that you find out. And there's many ways of doing this, and most of them are free. Okay. So I'm going to put some links in the show notes to places online that have the full order of the Pilates mat and that have the full order of the Pilates reformer. There are also several well-known teachers who have blogs and YouTube videos where they are also showing all of the exercises in more of a loose order because, again, the Cadillac, he didn't really have an order to the exercises. You can kind of superimpose an order on the Cadillac or tower, on the chairs or anything else by simply following the order on the mat or the reformer. So where you might be doing standing footwork or supine footwork on mat or reformer at the start of your workout, you could also be doing supine leg springs, right? On the Cadillac, you could also be doing seated pumping on the chair. So there are lots of ways of, working through this order, but the order is important and it's good to know. And for many years, when I was teaching over in the Caribbean and I would, seriously, you think it's hard. You think it's hard to have at least regular clients who have special issues coming back into your classes and into your studio. Imagine working in a resort where the clients change like on a daily basis, or at least on a every few day basis or on a weekly basis, right? And some of them don't speak English and some of them aren't going to tell you what their issues and injuries are. But no matter where people were from, no matter what they came to me with, I was able to teach everybody. Because when you know what exercise comes next, you don't have to take your brain thinking time away from the class to be thinking, what the hell am I going to do with these people next? You know what exercise comes next. And then you're thinking, how can I tell the people with lower back pain to modify this? Or how can I tell the woman with the hip replacement how to modify this so that she can do it? It also means that if you want to add props to your classes, so if you want to do a magic circle class or you want to do a weight class or you want to do a band class or you want to teach Pilates with the TRX or whatever it is that you're doing, or even a standing Pilates class, which I have been known to do and teach and love, that you are still going through those same exercises. So you're then thinking to yourself, well, if I'm adding bands or I'm adding weights, can I maybe do some of the reformer rowing series on the mat? That could work. And then you'll start to look at other places where maybe with light weights, you could be doing chest expansion on the mat, or even chest expansion without weights on the mat. You could be teaching reformer on the mat. So there's lots of ways to still be creative, to still do modifications and variations, and to still serve your clients perfectly well and be a creative human and be creative in your own workouts by knowing the order of the exercises. So it's one of those very strange things where it's the more you have the structure of the Pilates system and of the order of the exercises, the better you will be able to bring new things into that structure and to go outside of that structure when you want to. But you'll be thinking, if I'm going outside of the structure, why? Is it serving me in my workout? Is it serving my clients? And if it's not, then you might not go there. But if you're not sure what comes next, if you're not sure how to do modifications and variations, then teaching or doing becomes extraordinarily overwhelming because suddenly you have, with all the modifications and variations, you've got hundreds of exercise possibilities here. And you know that you've got a 45-minute class and that half the people in class are going to need modifications. So my recommendation to everybody who's doing Pilates or teaching Pilates is to make yourself familiar with the order of the exercises. You may not recognize them all. You may not have learned them all. Some of them you may never do, and that's okay. But know what that order is so that you have a way of structuring the exercise program, number one. And number two, so that you also have a way of checking for yourself and your clients that you're getting stronger and that you're doing better. Because if you're not repeating things, then you'll never know if you're getting stronger or getting better. So a lot of times, people start doing Pilates and there's certain exercises that they absolutely hate because they're hard. But then those exercises do become easier. And then we add new ones to the series, right? Because you're moving up to, say, intermediate, and then you'll find new exercises to hate. As well as new exercises to love. And then you'll get better at the ones you hate and they'll move into the like or love list. And then we'll add new ones. Okay. So just keep doing Pilates, keep teaching Pilates, and look in the show notes for some links to the order of the exercises and to some of my colleagues' blogs and YouTube channels where you can find more about this. If you are a Pilates teacher and you are really interested in learning more about this order of the exercises and making your life a little bit easier in terms of teaching, especially if you're teaching groups and groups that include special populations, I invite you to check out 2 programs of mine. One is Pilates Teacher Mastermind, and there's 3 levels to the Pilates Teacher Mastermind program that range from simply a bi-monthly newsletter and a new online pre-recorded workshop every month that will, give you continuing education, to plans that include all of that, plus group sessions, group Zooms, group coaching, and one that includes private with me every single month so that you have plenty of accountability. If you are a mat only teacher, or you're teaching a lot of mat and would really just like to deep dive into Pilates mat, including the order of the exercises from beginning all the way through advanced, as well as all of the special population modifications for back pain and neck pain and all of that, then I invite you to check out Pilates Mat Mastery, because all of that lives in that program. So again, if these are topics that interest you as a Pilates teacher, I have some online programs that will take care of you with this. And if you are a Pilates client who would like to have some regular online sessions, privates or classes that, again, will teach you the order of the exercises, will teach you the modifications and variations that are good for your body, then I encourage you to come over and check out my Strong Bones Pilates studio, where you can take private sessions and you can also take group classes. They are all osteoporosis friendly. They are all focused on bone health and focused on mobility and on keeping you feeling and functioning at your best for your entire life. So guys, thank you so much once again for joining me here on the podcast. I am so, so thrilled to be bringing this content to you. And I'm so thrilled that apparently you like the content and you continue coming back to listen to the Pilates Goddess podcast. I would love it if you would go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave a rating or review. And I will talk to you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.